Info Plus for genuine information.
Welcome to the show again. Again, I have a very special guest all the way from Austrade, Mumbai. First of all, Austrade is an Australian government international trade promotion and investment attraction agency. And we have a guest from Austrade, Mumbai, the Senior Trade and Investment Commissioner. We have Dr. Monica Kennedy again. I would like to welcome her to the show. Dr. Kennedy, welcome to the show again.
Thanks so much for having me back. It's always a great pleasure to be here with you.
It's our pleasure to have you again. So this is going to be our second interview with you again on our TV channel. So how do you feel?
Yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoy this interview, but I think this will be my third interview because it's twice that I've been here as the Senior Trade and Investment Commissioner, but I also did an interview with you at Swinburne University of Technology when I was working there, looking after their international programs.
That's our pleasure. So moving ahead, we know that you have joined Austrade in early 2021. You went through a long career and been building international education partnerships, working across pathways, ELICOs, VE, and higher education, and in a range of modalities in India, China, Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia, Bhutan, and Sri Lanka. How has it been helpful to do something impactful between Australia and Nepal?
It does, when you read it, it sounds like so many places to have worked, and it is, but really at the core of everything that I've been doing over those years is looking at the opportunities for Australia to work with other nations in education. Australia has a world-leading education system, and there are an enormous range of opportunities for countries to get together, to work on programs together, to build relationships together, for students to have an opportunity to study in Australia or study Australian programs in their own country. And so my work over these years and in those different countries has just been about doing the matchmaking, finding the ways that we can engage as nations and really make the most of the opportunities that world-class education can give.
Nepal and Australia have a bilateral relationship since more than 63 years, which is very long, and both countries have good reciprocal relation, right? So would you like to say something about your effort and initiatives to expand trade and business relationship between these two countries?
Yeah, sure. So it is a great position to be in here, looking after opportunities for trade and investment between Australia and countries in South Asia. And while the trade between Australia and Nepal is quite small, it's growing really rapidly. And so we're seeing that the kinds of things that I've been interested in and continue to be interested in, particularly in education and building people-to-people links, is really significant. Like, it's really important in being able to build trade as well. So where you have people-to-people links, where you have great trust between nations, you have a real energy and a motivation to do more, to connect in trade. And certainly with education at the centre of the relationship between Nepal and Australia, it is absolutely key to the work that we do, building out from that. So when students come study in Australia, they have a world-class experience. They come back with a qualification that will take them anywhere around the world. Often they've got great work experience from having studied and worked in Australia, one of the best places to study on the globe. And then they bring that education back to Nepal. When that happens, students bring back not just all their knowledge and experience, but deep relationships with people in Australia as well. And on the basis of that, trade continues to flourish. It's a virtuous cycle.
Australia, definitely the first choice of Nepalese students, actually. So, you must be aware of, I'm sure you are aware of that, that filming crew from Himalaya Television recently visited Australia to showcase educational opportunities offered by Australia. So education sector in Australia has contributed 25 billion in Australian economy. So statistics show that. So Nepal stands in third row in terms of sending students to Australia. So how does Australia ensure to welcome quality students there? As we see, there are certain changes in immigration policy with the changing government. So would you like to put a few words on this?
Yeah, sure. Look, it's no real surprise that about half of the students who travel internationally to study come to Australia. Australia is a really popular destination for Nepal, but for many nations around the world. And it's largely due to the excellent education system that we have. So even though Australia only has 43 universities, we have 3 in the top 20. We have 9 in the top 100, and nearly all of them in the top are ranked in the world ranking. So we have an excellent system of education that supports excellent institutions, which is great. But we also have some world-leading regulation that's about protecting international students. So we have a thing called the ESOS Act that really enshrines within our laws the ways that we need to support international students to give them the best and safest experience they can have as an international student. But on top of that, probably most importantly, Australia is a warm and welcoming and safe place to live anyway. So we welcome people into an environment where already we are a diverse country. We're made up of people from all over the globe.
It is.
And people enter into this environment in a warm, welcoming, happy country that is environmentally clean and engaged in sustainability. And so it's all these kinds of things that attract Nepalese students. And then when they come, they have a fabulous education experience. They come out with a great education qualification, and then they stay, work, get some fabulous experience, and then they're set up for a global career.
Absolutely. Australia, a very welcoming country for international students. So Australia is talking about transnational education as well. So statistics data show that more than 100,000 Nepalese students are going to abroad every year for higher education, and Australia is definitely the first choice. So Nepal has high demand of Australian education. However, Australian universities seem reluctant to establish their campuses or affiliate campus in this territory. So universities like SCU, UTS and Monash are offering degrees in Asian regions. So how does Australian government promote this into Nepal to cater demand of Australian education here in Nepal locally?
Yeah, it's the next logical step, isn't it? For people to be able to access Australia's fabulous education systems and qualifications from their home. And we're seeing it in recent times in India, for example. So Australia has announced with India that an Australian university will be the first ever foreign campus to be established in India, and this has been approved some months ago now, with the second university identified and planning to and really gearing up to be able to welcome their first cohort. So Australia is getting this profile within the region of being able to bring excellent qualifications into the region. So Australian institutions have been, they are very traditional, and sometimes they are nervous about moving into a new region, but there is lots of experience across our education system. And as Australian universities start looking to South Asia, to this part of the world, and seeing the abundance of talent, the abundance of talented students, as well as talented educators here, they're beginning to lift their gaze and look across to South Asia. Nepal, as a growing nation with aspirations for skills development and education of the scale that's evident in Nepal, makes a great space, a great opportunity for Australia's institutions to engage in. And so we will be supporting as universities start entering South Asia to provide their qualifications here in transnational education setups and on campuses here in the region. Australia will be working really hard to give them a leg up, to make the connections and to make sure they have everything they need to successfully support Nepalese students.
Okay, hopefully Australia expands its institutions here in Nepal very soon. Moving ahead, we recently visited more than 12 universities in Gold Coast, Brisbane, Port Macquarie, Canberra and Sydney. So we found students so happy there actually. The current trend shows that huge number of students, especially applying to vocational colleges, private colleges, have got visa rejection, which is a major problem for students who are willing to go abroad and further their studies abroad. So visa rejection is the major problem. So can we see that you rather promote universities only, or are there any changes on visa policy, particularly for Nepal?
Yeah, there's been no changes to our visa policy, and it always is difficult for a student who has And a student and their family, when they set their sights on travelling abroad to study, it's so disappointing to receive a visa rejection.
Mm-hmm.
But there is no change to our visa policy. Australia continues to recruit the best quality students from around the world to some of the best institutions around the world. We really do work very, very hard to support students who are genuinely coming to study an Australian qualification, to come, study, gather experience, and then take that experience around the world. We have really clear regulation about how students apply to and then are received into our institutions.
Mm-hmm.
And in some cases, people are disappointed that they haven't had a successful visa application. What I would say that is, if you're genuinely interested in a great quality education, then seek out a really good education partner or counsellor to support you. Make sure that you do lots of research about the institution you're going to, the careers that will be enabled as a result of your study, and stay close to your counsellor to support you in preparing a successful application.
Mm-hmm. So the main thing for those who are struggling with visa, they have to consult with the proper institutions, right? Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah. Make sure you know what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you really know
Absolutely.
what you want.
The first thing. Okay, moving ahead. A team from different trade and business fraternity used to visit Nepal, and your team visited in Nepal some time ago. So how does Austrade facilitate to make this happen in future?
Well, we'll continue to see Nepal as an incredibly important partner for Australia in education. As you mentioned, Nepal is our third largest onshore student cohort. And so we recognise it as absolutely critical. My colleagues and good friends in the Department of Education based here in New Delhi travel regularly to Nepal. And when the opportunity is available to us, the Austrade team travels up as well. I think there's a great opportunity for Australian representatives to engage with Nepal, and we continue to do that, yes, as we have been doing.
Okay, Dr. Kenny, the statistics show that Nepal exports less and imports more, a lot from Australia. So there is a trade deficit, definitely. Nepal government has encouraged to export the goods and services and taking some precautions and not to predominantly rely on importing from abroad, so including Australia. So how has Australia been planning to help Nepal to flourish the Nepalese market in Australia?
So this opportunity for us to develop our trade relationship really has its basis in things like education, infrastructure development, and in the food and beverage sectors. We're constantly engaging with Nepali government and with Australian organisations to see if we can matchmake and develop that further. Nepal's exports to Australia have grown very significantly. We're growing off a small base, but they are really growing very quickly. And Australia has partnered in a number of ways, for example, with the Asia Foundation to support, Nepal's transition to federalism, improve service delivery and governance. And these are the kinds of things that we're able to do outside of the direct trade relationship to enable Australia and Nepal to do more together in trade.
So it seems that Australia has been doing a lot in India in terms of accelerating business relations, and Nepal too is a strategic country bordered with both China and India. So how does Australia see the future collaboration in terms of bringing foreign investment in Nepal?
Yep, there's lots of opportunity and we're very aware of that opportunity. Our trade with Nepal, as I said, is small. But there's lots of potential for growth, in particularly things like hydropower, something we're very interested in our net zero agenda, in tourism and infrastructure development. There seems to be also some opportunities for us to develop in our commercial partnerships in civil aviation and telecommunications in particular. But as I mentioned earlier, it's the people-to-people links that are really going to enable the partnerships on which trade will grow. And we are developing really strong people-to-people links through our education system, through the diaspora, who are so warm and welcoming and such an important part of the Australian community. And we'll continue to, use higher education opportunities to facilitate the development in Nepal of a skilled and knowledgeable workforce, because it's this workforce that enables Nepal to come to a point of competitive advantage for other countries seeking to invest. So as Nepal builds up its own capacity in education and skills, it provides a fertile ground for further investment.
Okay, but last but not the least, the relations between the two countries have always been marked by friendship and mutual understanding, resulting in the steady growth in bilateral contacts and economic and technical cooperation between the countries. So what are the expectations from Nepal government?
Well, I think that, as always, Nepal will expect Australia to be a good friend and partner. You know, Nepal is an important partner to us, and we hope for closer partnerships with government and continued great relationships. As our educational institutions are working together, this is a really good opportunity for us to engage. But we see that we already have a strong basis on which we can grow. Nepalese students consistently choose Australia, and as a result of that, I keep on mentioning the people-to-people links, but they provide the base from which we can really grow our nation's relationships further.
Now that we have come to the end of the show, is there anything that you'd like to say to our viewers or any students or business person who are hearing you, watching you right now?
I think the thing I'd say is what I always say. Australia is a fabulous, warm, welcoming, diverse country. It has a real respect for and belief in the quality of its education and its educational institutions. We have a great reputation that's built on our commitment to supporting international students, and the trade between Nepal and Australia is something that we see as a real opportunity for growth. We do seek to build on the relationships between our people, to have relationships between our nation that's multifaceted. And that grows as our nations grow.
All right. Thank you for your valuable time and wonderful conversation, Dr. Kennedy. Thank you again.
Yeah, and thank you for the preparation for today as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Info Plus, for genuine information.